right. Well, it is the 7 o'clock hour. We want to welcome all of you that are here live for our Bible study tonight. Those of you that are joining us on Zoom, and also for those of you that will be joining us on our YouTube channel once this drops on Tuesday. We want to welcome all of you to tonight's Bible study. We're going to be covering new material today. Today we're starting in the book of Exodus. This is a very powerful book. It is probably one of the most important books from the Tanakh, which some call the Old Testament, the books from Genesis to Malachi. This is a very important book. The events that take place in this book are absolutely miraculous and impossible apart from an Elohim that's concerned about his people. So we're going to get into this today. It's going to be very powerful. Hopefully you'll see yourself in it. It'll increase your faith as we go through this, and also increase your expectation of your walk, right? You want to take your walk to a new level after going through this lesson. So I'm going to go ahead and pray, and we're going to get right into this lesson today. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kitshenu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asuk b'divri Torah. Blessed are you, Yahweh our Elohim, King of the universe, who sanctifies us with your commandments and command us to engross ourselves in the words of your Torah. And as always, we count it an honor and a privilege to be able to do just that. All right, so with that, we're going to go ahead and share our screen and get right into this very important lesson today. So you should be seeing my screen now. All right, the book of Exodus, part 1. Before getting into the book of Exodus, we must revisit the book of Genesis and the final years of the life of Yaakov and Joseph. In chapters 41 of Genesis, Pharaoh dreams of 7 years of plenty and also 7 years of famine, leading to Joseph's promotion to prime minister. Once the 7 years of famine appear, Yaakov and Joseph are reunited and brought to live in Egypt. In chapter 45, Pharaoh instructs Joseph to bring his family to Egypt. Notice the loving favor that Joseph and the children of Israel enjoyed as they settled into their new home in Egypt. The brothers of Joseph have come, and it was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of his servants. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, say to your brothers, do this, load your beasts and go. Enter the land of Canaan, and take your father and your households and come to me. And look at this now. And I give you the best of the land of Israel, and you eat the fat of the land, right? And you have been commanded, do this, take wagons out of the land of Israel for your little ones and your wives. You shall bring your father and come. And do not be concerned about your goods. Why? For the best of all the land of Israel is yours. Wow. That's favor, isn't it? That's coming from the top man, Pharaoh. Right. You're saying, come, bring your family. I'm rolling out the red carpet. Pharaoh gives Yaakov and the children of Israel the red carpet treatment as they enter Egypt. Pharaoh gave the 70 souls who joined Joseph the best of the land of Egypt. As we enter the book of Exodus, 350 years have passed. Joseph died, and the Pharaoh who knew Joseph died. The children of Israel have grown into a multitude, 600,000 men, plus women and children. The children of Israel, now a nation numbering nearly 2 million or more souls, is living under very different circumstances. The book of Genesis and Exodus are connected. Genesis tells of humanity's rebellion against Elohim and constant failure under every test. The life of every person ends in death. In fact, at the deathbed of Joseph, the prime minister of Egypt, Genesis chapter 50 records Joseph restating Elohim's promise to bring the children of Israel to their own land. And Joseph said to his brothers, I am dying, but Elohim shall surely visit you and bring you out of this land, to the land of which he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. And Joseph made the children of Israel swear, saying, Elohim shall certainly visit you, and you shall bring up my bones from here. And Joseph died, being 110 years old. Exodus is the breathtaking epic of Elohim's rescue of his covenant people, the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It is a story of deliverance and redemption by the Most High Elohim, for Yahweh is a promise keeper. Yeah. Without the failures in the book of Genesis, the book of Exodus has no meaning. The deliverance experienced in Exodus is a precursor of the deliverance Yeshua will bring to the children of Israel and the whole world in the end. So let's look at an overview of Yeshua HaMashiach as he is being revealed in the book of Exodus. First of all, he's revealed as a baby boy rescued from the king's decree of slaughter. Same thing he had to go through in his life. He's revealed as the Exodus, or the way out of sin and bondage to freedom, abundance, and eternal life. He is revealed as the sinless Lamb of Elohim, who is our Passover lamb, shedding his blood for our redemption from sin. And Yeshua HaMashiach is revealed as our high priest in the mobile moving tabernacle, who ever lives to make intercession for us. Yeah. Let's look at the three phases of Moshe as leader of the children of Israel. For 40 years, he was raised in Pharaoh's court, and he believed he was somebody and killed the Egyptian. For 40 years, hiding on the backside of the desert, he learned he was a nobody herding sheep. And finally, he spent his last 40 years in service to Yahweh, learning what Elohim can do with a nobody. The children of Israel, they spent 350 years begging and praying to get out of bondage and into the promised land, only to spend the next 40 years murmuring and complaining to go back to the Egyptian bondage. Is it possible that some aspects of our life in Egypt, the world of sin and bondage, are so desirable as to make us want to return to that bondage? Let's not be too quick to judge. Right? I'm sure many have faced moments in their salvation where they ponder, man, what was life like back in that old way, back with that old Butch, back with that old Betty, back with that old circumstance, right? Just wonder. I was slinging, I was doing this, I was doing that, I had this, I had that. So a lot of time when we read the story of the children of Israel coming out of Egypt, we can be very harsh in our judgment. But I'm just suggesting here, let's not be too quick to judge. Now, let's begin our study of the book of Exodus. Exodus chapter 1. And these are the names of the children of Israel who came to Mizraim with Jacob, each one with his household. Reuben, Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda. Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin. Dan, and Naphtali. Gad, and Asher. And all those who were descendants of Jacob were 70 beings, as Joseph was already in Mizraim. And Joseph died, and all his brothers, and all that generation. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased very much, multiplied, and became very strong, and the land was filled with them. Then a new sovereign arose over Mizraim, who did not know Joseph. And he said to his people, see, these people of children of Israel are more and stronger than we. Come, let us act wisely towards them, lest they increase. There shall be, when fighting befalls us, that they shall join our enemies and fight against us, and shall go up out of the land. So they set slave masters over them to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh supply cities, Pithom and Ramesses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they increased and grew. And they were in dread of the children of Israel. And the Mizrahites made the children of Israel serve with harshness. And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar and in brick, and in all kinds of work in the field. All their work, which they made them do, was with harshness. Then the sovereign of Mizraim spoke to the Hebrew midwives, of whom the name of one was Shipporah, and the name of the other was Puah. And he said, when you deliver the Hebrew women and see them on their birth stools, if it is a son, then you shall put him to death. But if it is a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared Elohim and did not do as the sovereign of Mizraim commanded them, and kept the male children alive. So the sovereign of Mizraim called the midwives and said to them, why have you done this and kept the male children alive? And the midwives said to Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not like the Mizraim women, for they are lively and give birth before the midwives come to them. So Elohim was good to the midwives, and the people increased and became very numerous. And it came to be, because the midwives feared Elohim, that he provided households for them. And Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, throw every son who is born into the river, and keep alive every daughter. Chapter 2. And a man of the house of Levi went and married a daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived and bore a son. And she saw that he was a lovely child, and she hid him 3 months. And when she could hide him no longer, she took an ark of wicker for him and coated it with tar and pitch, and put the child in it, and laid it in the reeds by the edge of the river. And his sister stood at a distance to know what would be done to him. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her young women were walking by the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the reeds, she sent her female servant to get it, and opened it and saw the child, and see, the baby wept. So she had compassion on him and said, this is one of the children of the Hebrews. And the sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and call a nurse from the Hebrew women to nurse the child for you? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, go. And the young woman went and called the child's mother. Perfect plan, right? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, take this child away and nurse him for me, and then I shall pay your wages. So the woman took the child and nursed him, getting paid to raise her own child, right, who should have been killed. Isn't that a miracle? That's a miracle. And the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moshe, saying, because I have drawn him out of the water, Moshe, or Moses. And in those days it came to be, when Moshe was grown, that he went out to his brothers and looked at their burdens. And he saw a Mizraim striking a Hebrew, one of his brothers. So he turned this way and that way. And when he saw no one, he struck the Mizraim and hid him in the sand. And he went out the second day and saw 2 Hebrew men fighting. And he said to the one who did the wrong, why do you strike your neighbor? And he said, who made you a head and a judge over us? Do you intend to kill me as you killed that Mizraim? And Moshe feared and said, truly the matter is known. And Pharaoh heard of this matter, and he sought to kill Moshe. But Moshe fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. And the priests of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water, and they filled the troughs to water their father's flock. But the shepherds came and drove them away. Then Moshe stood up and came to their rescue and watered their flock. And they came to Reuel, their father, and he said, how is it that you've come so soon today? And they said, a Mizraim rescued us from the hand of the shepherds, and he also drew enough water for us and watered the flock. And he said to his daughters, and where is he? Why did you leave the man? Call him and let him eat bread. And Moshe agreed to dwell with the man, and he gave Zipporah, his daughter, to Moshe. And she bore him a son, and he called his name Gershom, for he said, I have become a sojourner in a foreign land. Let's stop here for a moment. Let's kind of want to deal with this portion of Moshe's life. Now, the Most High is very powerful, and it's amazing how he deals with things. You know, he allowed at a time when the sons of the Hebrews were being killed, he allowed for Moshe to be spared. You know, his mother saw the favor on his life, and she took a chance and said, you know, I'm going to put him in this basket. Now, I know the Nile River is full of crocodiles, it's full of all kind of different animals, but, you know, I'm going to trust the Most High that he's going to spare my son, and he's going to get to a right destiny because I see the hand of the Most High on my son. And so he, you know, was able to navigate that Nile River. Now, river can be a violent current, but the Most High he saw fit to guide that little ark, right? That current and that little ark to the handmaid, the Egyptian handmaid, the daughter of Pharaoh, and she fell in love with him. And that was not, you know, it didn't have to be that way. She could have saw that child, saw that Hebrew cloth, and said, somebody trying to hide their child from my father's edict. Go call one of the guards, and let's have this boy killed. He's not supposed to be living. You know, that could have been the reality. It could have been. But the Most High gave Moshe favor, and as soon as she saw him, she fell in love with him, paid money to have him nursed by his own mother, right? And then here's the thing that's not the scriptures don't talk about. He's now 40 years in Pharaoh's court. He's learning the top information that's known to man at that time. Science, philosophy, he knows how to read, you know, hieroglyphics. He's learning all these different critical things that he's going to need in his future calling to serve the Most High. Right? So the Most High saw fit, if he's going to deliver my people out of Egypt, he needs to have an inside track on what Egypt is all about. And so he learned firsthand at the side of Pharaoh, right? He was able to learn everything that caused him to tick. And so the Most High, he knew exactly what he was doing in sparing Moshe, right? And allowed him to be able to grow up and learn the ways of them. But unfortunately, he got lifted up in pride, and he felt like, you know, I know I'm special. I know I'm called to do something very special and to get my people out of this situation. So when he saw one of his brothers being mistreated, he took it upon himself to commit that murder. And what ended up happening, the Most High had prophesied to Abraham. He said that your seed is going to go into a land that's not their own. And they're going to spend 400 years there being mistreated. But I'm going to bring them out and I'm going to judge that nation. But they were literally in there 430 years. The extra 30 years was because of Moshe getting out of position and doing what he should not have done, which was commit that murder. Yeah, because now he had to run away and hide and wait for a favor to be raised up that did not know him and know of his crime. And so he added another 30 years to their enslavement. But still, the Most High did not forget them. And so this first 40 years, why I said that the three divisions of his development, his first 40 years, he was in Pharaoh's court. And he got lifted up in pride a little bit, knowing that he was somebody special. You know, when all the other men child that were born when he was born, all those other Hebrews are dead. But he survived, right? So he was special. He knew he was special. But he took it upon himself to try to bring deliverance in his own way. And that was not the way of the Most High. And so now he's in this foreign land on the run, and he meets this woman, and now he's starting a family on the backside of the desert. That's where we are now. And it came to be, after these many days, that the sovereign of Mizraim died, and the children of Israel groaned because of the slavery, and they cried out. And their cry came up to Elohim because of the slavery. And Elohim heard their groaning. And Elohim remembered his covenant with Abraham and with Isaac and with Jacob. Notice now, his covenant is with these three Hebrews. Abraham, Isaac, and with Jacob. His covenant is not with the world. It is not with the nations. It is not with Egypt. It is not with Rome. It is not with any of these other places that may come up. His covenant is with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And so he is mindful of these people because of his covenant with their fathers. You have to keep that. If you're taking notes, that part you need to put in highlight, that he made a covenant with his people through Abraham, Yitzhak, and Jacob. We're going to see how powerful that is. And Elohim looked on the children of Israel, and Elohim knew. He was aware of them. He did not forget them. Chapter 3. And Moshe was shepherding the flock of Israel, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the back of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of Elohim. And the messenger of Yahweh appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of a bush. And he looked and saw the bush burning with fire, but the bush was not consumed. And Moshe said, let me turn aside now and see this great sight, why the bush does not burn. You know, he was amazed at this, right? I bet. And Yahweh saw that he turned aside to see. And Elohim called to him from the midst of the bush and said, Moshe, Moshe. And he said, here I am. And he said, do not come near here. Take your sandals off your feet, for the place on which you are standing is set apart ground. It is holy. It is set apart to me. And he said, I am the Elohim of your father, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Yitzhak, and the Elohim of Jacob. This is how the creator of heaven and earth is identifying himself. Through these three men. He did not say, I am the Elohim of the Egyptians. He said, I am the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Yitzhak, and the Elohim of Jacob. Special relationship with those three men. And Moshe hid his face, but he was afraid to look at Elohim. And Yahweh said, I have indeed seen the oppression of my people who are in Mizraim, and have heard their cry because of their slave drivers. For I know the sorrow of my people. How many hear what I'm saying? He is mindful of his children. He's aware of it. Now, you may ask, why did he let so much time go by before he rescued them? Well, there was a lot of things that had to take place before Yahweh could move. If you look back at the original prophecy that he gave Abraham, he said, know of a surety that your seed shall go into a land that is not their own. And they're going to be mistreated by that nation. But they're going to be there for 400 years. The other thing he said, because the cup of the Canaanites, right? The cup of the Canaanites has not yet been filled. In other words, the Most High gives every person, every nation, a period of time before their cup of sin, their cup of iniquity is overflowing. Once their cup gets full, then the Most High draws a line in the sand. He says, enough is enough. So he gave the Canaanites 400 years to get their life together. At the same time, he allowed his children to go into Egypt. Now, at first, it was a very pleasant environment. They got the best of the land, as we saw. Their brothers were given positions, and they were working and living in the best of the land, eating the fat of the land. But the key is they were in a place where they would not be scattered. They went in 70 souls. And at this point, it's at least, I mean, you figure if it's 600,000 men, right? You double that for every woman that's to a man. You got to assume there's going to be some single people, single women, and figure that every couple had 2 or 3 kids or more, right? So it's easily 2 million or more. So they have been in Egypt. They've been fruitful. They've multiplied just like he told Abraham. If you can count the stars of the sky, so shall your seed be. If you can count the sand of the sea, so shall your seed be. And so the Most High has kept his word and allowed his children to stay in this incubator. I call Egypt their incubator, right? They stayed there, they stayed separated from all of the people groups, and they grew. And they became a great nation under great persecution, but they were still able to do what the Most High wanted them to do, which is stay there, stay separated, and grow. And so he had to wait for the cup of the Canaanites to be full, and he had to wait for them to become a great nation. And so all that was taking place over this, 350-year period on into the life of Moses, which eventually going to become a total of 430 years before they're going to be released. All right, back to verse 7 now. You have a question? Go ahead.
Okay, who's the three guys that you mentioned?
Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Who was them?
That's where all the Hebrews started from. They started from Abraham.
Abraham in Hebrew is
He's the Hebrew father.
Oh.
Abraham had his son Isaac. Isaac had his son Jacob. Jacob had 12 sons, and they became the 12 tribes of Israel. That's where these people came from. They all came from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They are the fathers, right? They're the fathers that created all this, right? They're the ones that were in covenant with the Most High Elohim. So they're the name. They're the main three. Right? They're the main three. Yeah, they're the main three: Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
I got it now.
Okay, very good. All right, verse 7. And Yahweh said, I have indeed seen the oppression of my people who are in Mitzrayim. And I have heard their cry because they're slave drivers, for I know their sorrow. He has not turned a deaf ear to their circumstance and situation. And I have come down to deliver them from the hand of the Mizrahites, and to bring them up from that land to a good and spacious land, to a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites. And now see, the cry of the children of Israel has come to me, and I have also seen the oppression with which the Mizrahites oppressed them. And now come, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Mitzrayim. And Moshe said to Elohim, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh, and that I should bring the children of Israel out of Mitzrayim? You see how his attitude has changed. 40 years on the backside of the desert, tending sheep. His identity has been lost now in just being a lowly shepherd tending sheep. He went from being a prince in Egypt, right? Well learned, a great warrior, possibly destined to be one of the pharaohs. Josephus, one of the great historians, he declared that the greatness was on this young man, and they could have seen him being a pharaoh, but now he sees himself as being a nobody. And sometimes it takes that for the Most High to be able to use us. It's hard for him to use people who get big-headed and see themselves as being great. In our future lessons, not so much in this particular book, but once we get into the Kings and Chronicles, the first king, that Benjamite, he got big headed. He wanted to do things his own way, and that caused him to lose his kingdom. And so it ended up falling to David. Pride go before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a great fall. He resists the proud, but he gives grace unto the humble.
Yeah.
And so in this moment, Moshe does not see himself as being great. And that's why he's usable. Because someone that's in this state, he's not going to move to the left or to the right unless he knows of a surety. I am moving with Yahweh because I cannot do this alone. I cannot do this in my own strength. I must rely on him because I am a nobody. If only we can learn that lesson and let that be the rule of the day. Right? And Moshe said to Elohim, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and that I should bring the children of Israel out of Mizraim? And he said, because I am with you, and this is to you the sign that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Mizraim, you are to serve Elohim on this mountain. So the key is, because I am with you. I know you can't do it alone. This calling that I've given you is greater than you, Moshe. But it's all good, because guess what? I got your back. I got your back, right? And Moshe said to Elohim, see, when I come to the children of Israel and say to them, the Elohim of your fathers has sent me to you, and they say to me, what is his name? What should I say to them? And Elohim said to Moshe, I am that which I am. And he said, thus you shall say to the children of Israel, I am has sent me to you. And Elohim said further to Moshe, thus you are to say to the children of Israel, Yahweh Elohim of your fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Yitzhak, and the Elohim of Yaakov has sent me to you. Look what he says here now. This is my name forever, and this is my remembrance to all generations. So he is associating himself with this nation of people through 3 generations. Abraham, a father, Yitzhak, a son, and Yaakov, a grandson. Yahweh looks at generations to fulfill his plan and purpose. And it's important for us. A lot of times, when we're trying to accomplish things, we tend to look at our own individual lifespan. And we want to accomplish things in our lifespan. And when we're not looking generationally, then we tend to hinder what we're trying to accomplish. I've been in insurance sales, and I've literally talked to people of color, who said, I'm not leaving them nothing, right? And so for that reason, a lot of times the people of color have got to always be starting from scratch, right? They're always starting from scratch. They always, first job, first one to own the house, no savings set up, they get married, they're starting everything from scratch. But you got other people groups that when they get married, mom and dad got a starter home already paid for them. They've got money in the bank set up for them. And a lot of times, if it's a daughter that they're given to be married, they got a position already prepared for the son-in-law to work in the business, or they're going to help this, sponsor them in a business, maybe a business that they know they're going to need to help to purchase, good supplies from. They have a plan in place to cause wealth to transfer over generations. And if you're not thinking generationally, then you're never going to make it, because every new generation can't be starting from scratch. That's why the Most High said, this is my name forever. I'm looking generationally. See, I couldn't get this project done just through Abraham alone. Abraham had to get the blessing, right? He had to get the promise, and then he had to share that promise with Isaac, his son. And then Isaac had to embrace the promise. He had to share the promise with his son, Jacob. And then Jacob had to embrace the promise.
Mhm.
And then Jacob, when he was, raising his kids, he saw where the favor was landing on Joseph, and he poured into Joseph,
Yes, he did.
right? Saying, I see greatness in you. You're gonna be the next leg of this thing.
Mm.
And he didn't miss the mark because he became great in Egypt. He became the #1 man in all of Egypt, short of Pharaoh. And so it's not only just a marathon, but it's a relay race.
Mm.
You got to keep passing the baton to the next generation.
Mm.
And if you're not thinking generationally, you're hindering the potential for your blessing to continue to flourish. It will die with you if you're not thinking about the next generation. How many hear what I'm saying? Gotta get this. You got to find that child or that grandchild that has an ear to hear, and you got to be willing to pour into them and let them know this is what's required, right? And you got to set them up and prepare things for them so that, once you're gone, they can keep carrying the baton to the next level. How many hear what I'm saying? Got to get this. This is my name forever, he says. And this is my remembrance to all generations. I am going to be associated with Abraham, with Isaac, with Yaakov, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, those 3 men forever. So if you ever think about, some weird theology called replacement theology, forget about it. Because I'm never going to forget my friends, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And I'm certainly not going to forget their children. Because I made a promise to Abraham. I made a promise to him. And I'm not going to forget him because he didn't forget me. How many hear what I'm saying? Go, and you shall gather the elders of Israel together and say to them, Yahweh Elohim of your fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, of Yitzhak, and of Yaakov appeared to me, saying, I have indeed visited you and seen what is done to you in Mitzrayim. And I say, I am bringing you up out of the affliction of Mitzrayim to the land of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, to a land flowing with milk and honey. That's the plan of Yahweh. And they shall listen to your voice, and you shall come, you and the elders of Israel, to the sovereign of Israel, and you shall say to him, Yahweh Elohim of the Hebrews has met with us, and now please let us go 3 days' journey into the wilderness to slaughter to Yahweh our Elohim. But I know that the sovereign of Israel is not going to let you go, not even by a strong hand. And I shall stretch out my hand and strike Mizraim with all my wonders, which I shall do in its midst. And after that, he shall let you go. And I shall give this people favor in the eyes of the Mizrites. And it shall be that when you go, you shall not go out empty-handed. You've been working for 430 years.
Okay.
You're going to walk out of there with your payment. But every woman shall ask from her neighbor and from the stranger in her house objects of silver and objects of gold and garments. And you shall put them on your sons and on your daughters and shall plunder the Mizrites. Chapter 4. And Moshe answered and said, and if they do not believe me, nor listen to my voice, and say, Yahweh has not appeared to you. And Yahweh said to him, what is that in your hand? And he said, a rod. And he said, throw it on the ground. So he threw it on the ground, and it became a serpent. And Moshe fled from it. And Yahweh said to Moshe, reach out your hand and seize it by the tail. So he reached out his hand and took hold of it, and it became a rod in his hand. So that they believed that Yahweh Elohim of their fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Yitzhak, and the Elohim of Yaakov has appeared to you. And Yahweh said to him again, now put your hand in your bosom. And he put his hand in his bosom. And when he took it out, and see, his hand was leprous, like snow. And he said, put your hand in your bosom again. So he put his hand in his bosom again and drew it out of his bosom. And see, it was restored like his other flesh. And it shall be, if they do not believe you, nor listen to the voice of the first sign, they shall believe the voice of the latter sign. And it shall be, if they do not believe even these two signs, or listen to your voice, that you shall take water from the river and pour it on dry ground. And the water which you take from the river shall become blood on the dry land. And Moshe said to Yahweh, O Yahweh, I am not a man of words, neither before nor since you have spoken to your servant. For I am slow of speech and slow of tongue. And Yahweh said to him, who has made man's mouth? Who makes dumb or deaf or seeing or blind? Is it not I, Yahweh? And now go, and I shall be with your mouth and teach you what to say. But he said, O Yahweh, please send by the hand of him whom you will send. In other words, send somebody else, please. And the displeasure of Yahweh burned against Moshe. He's getting angry. He said, dude, I got your back, right? Yeah, his displeasure burned against Moshe. And he said, is not Aharon the Levite your brother? I know that he speaks well. And see, he is also coming out to meet you. When he sees you, he shall be glad in his heart. And you shall speak to him and put the words in his mouth. And I am with your mouth and with his mouth, and I shall teach you what to do. And he shall speak for you to the people. And it shall be that he shall be a mouth for you, and you shall be an Elohim for him. I got a solution, Moshe. That's what he's saying. If you don't want to talk, let your brother talk, okay? And take this rod in your hand with which you shall do the signs. Then Moshe went and returned to Jethro, his father-in-law, and said to him, please let me go and return to my brothers who are in Mizraim to see whether they are still alive. And Jethro said to Moshe, go in peace. And Yahweh said to Moshe and Midian, go, return to Mizraim, for all the men are dead who sought your life. So Moshe took his wife and his sons and set them on a donkey. And he returned to the land of Mizraim. And Moshe took the rod of Elohim in his hand. And Yahweh said to Moshe, as you go back to Mizraim, see that you do all those wonders before you, Pharaoh, which I have put in your hand. But I'm going to strengthen his heart, so that he does not let the people go. And you shall say to Pharaoh, thus says Yahweh, Israel is my son, my firstborn. So I say to you, let my son go to serve me. But if you refuse to let him go, see, I am killing your son, your firstborn. And it came to be on the way, in the lodging place, that Yahweh met him and sought to kill him. And Zipporah took a sharp stone and cut off the foreskin of her son and threw it at his feet and said, you are indeed a bridegroom of blood to me. So he let him go. Then she said, you are a bridegroom of blood because of the circumcision. So what you got to realize, the circumcision was instituted under the time of Abraham. Abraham and Ishmael were circumcised in the same day. And the Most High instructed them that all future male children of the Hebrews were to be circumcised on the 8th day. It's interesting that science has verified that the gene that causes blood to clot is at its peak in male children on the 8th day of their life. It is never higher than it is on that day. So the Most High, he's even scientific in how he does things when he instructs them to circumcise the male children on the 8th day, knowing that their blood would clot faster and they would heal faster after being circumcised on the 8th day. That became a sign of their covenant. It was a futuristic sign of the cutting away of the stoniness of our heart. So that the circumcision is a type and a shadow of what was to come when the Holy Spirit would enter our heart and cut away the stoniness of our heart and write the scriptures, the holy scriptures upon our hearts and upon our mind. So all of these things, even though these were living events that they had to experience, they were still only a type and a shadow of something even greater to come, something greater to come. But since they had been in Egypt, and since they had been, under this bondage, they were not keeping all of the covenants the way they normally would have been. And so in this situation, Moshe, he married, he bore his children, but he had not had them circumcised as he should have had. And really being a Levite, he should have known better. And that's why the Most High, when he caught him, he said, literally, I'm getting ready to kill you because you have not kept my word. And so, he was hesitant to do it. And it took his wife to come and cut the foreskin of her child to save his life. And I don't know why. I don't have an explanation why it would have taken him that situation to obey the Most High and to go ahead and yeah, right. His word. He wouldn't be coming to attack you unless you knew his word. In other words, I can't send you out until you fulfill all righteousness with me. You gotta put your house in order before you can go and start talking to somebody else. And so he had to deal with this situation, this shortcoming in his life before he was able to completely send him on his mission. And so, they got that thing straight. That's why, she's not a Hebrew. She didn't understand the ways. She didn't understand the way. That's why she's saying, you're a bridegroom of blood to me because of the circumcision. We don't understand it, but it's what he's requiring. So in order to save your life, I'm going to do it. And Yahweh said to Aharon, go to meet Moshe in the wilderness. And he went and met him on the mountain of Elohim and kissed him. Moshe then told Aharon all the words of Yahweh who had sent him and all the signs which he had commanded him. And Moshe went with Aharon and gathered together all the elders of the children of Israel. And Aharon spoke all the words which Yahweh had spoken to Moshe. Then he did the signs before the eyes of the people. And the people believed, and they heard that Yahweh had visited the children of Israel, that he had looked on their affliction. And they bowed their heads and did obeisance. We're going to end there. We're going to close out with this verse of scripture from Hebrews 6. But Elohim is not unrighteous to forget your work and labor of love, which you have showed towards his name, and that you have ministered to the saints and do minister. And we desire that every one of you do show the same diligence to the full assurance of hope unto the end, that you be not slothful, but followers of them who through faith and patience inherit the promises. But when Elohim made promise to Abraham, because he could swear by no greater, he swore by himself, saying, surely, blessing, I will bless thee, and multiplying, I will multiply thee. And so after he had patiently endured, what happened? He obtained the promise. We have to have that same faith, saints. Sometimes things may seem like it's taking a long time. The Most High appeared to Abraham. Abraham, he was married to a woman with a dead womb. They couldn't have any children. The Most High appeared to him and strengthened and encouraged him and said, you shall have a son. His faith got strengthened before his wife's faith got strengthened. As a result of that, he ended up getting with his wife's handmaid, Hagar, and they bore Ishmael, which was not ideal.
Not the will.
It was not the will. He needed to wait and get more instruction, but he didn't do that. And so as a result of that, he ended up creating an enemy of his seed. But he was 75 years old when he received the promise. and he was 100 years old when Isaac was born. So it took another 25 years. And by that time, his wife's womb was good and dead. But it said he dared to believe. He believed fully that what the Most High said, he was well able to perform. He was past the age of bearing children. His wife, not only was she past the age of bearing children, even when in her youth, she was not able to bear children, right? She was struggling, couldn't have kids. And so the Most High made a promise to him in the face of difficult, and not only difficult, but impossibility. And yet still, he was able to show up and make his promise come to pass. Because when he could swear by no greater, he swore by himself, saying, blessing, I will bless you, Abraham. And multiplying, I will multiply you. Now I'm just curious to know, has the Most High made any promises to you? Are there any promises that are yet to be fulfilled? It is time to rally your faith and dare to believe him that he is well able to perform that which he said, because our Elohim is not a man that he should lie, nor is he the son of man that he should repent or change his mind. If he said it, he's going to do it. If he spoke it, he's going to bring that thing to pass. How many hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right, all right. So we had a good hour. We just want to lay the foundation of this. It's gonna get real serious starting next week, right? It's gonna get real serious. You don't want to miss. All right, because we're talking about the Elohim of Israel, who is the one true Elohim. All right, let's pray. We're gonna pray the Rana benediction. Yivareka Yahweh Berishmareka. Ya'er Yahweh Panavaleka V'Yekomeka. Yisai Yahweh Panavaleka V'Yesimleka. Shalom. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh make his face shine upon you and show you his favor. And may Yahweh lift his face towards you and give you what? Shalom, peace. Nothing missing, nothing broken, and nothing lacking. All right, saints, we want to remind all of you that this will be dropping on YouTube on Tuesday. You want to get a chance to visit Dr. Russ E. Hoover's YouTube channel. We'll get a chance to look at these videos, share them with others that you want to get a hold of this truth. And again, that's Dr. Russ E. Hoover. Do all those YouTube things, subscribe, thumbs up, and like the information. Hit that bell for notification and get a chance to share this information with others that you know, that you want to expose them to this truth. And so we appreciate each and every one of you that are tuned in to listen to this teaching. This is going to be a powerful lesson. It's going to help to encourage your faith to know that Yahweh, he's a covenant keeper. He's a promise keeper, and he will keep his promise for you. All right. So this is Dr. Rusty Hoover signing off till next time. I just want to remind all of you that greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. And we already know, because we read the end of the book, and we know one thing, that we win and the devil loses. And so until next time, it's Dr. Rusty Hoover signing off. Shalom.